Greetings and welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you could be here today. Before we begin, please take a moment to smash those like and subscribe buttons and maybe drop us a comment down below. And if you're so inclined, go ahead and check us out over on Patreon. Lots of cool stuff going on over there. And a quick shout out to my Tier 4 patrons, Russ of the Frozen North, Neo5AC, Nick, and Zachary Langmead. Thank you very much. Now, on with the story. Deathworld Origins, a story by user Captain Meta 4, and an integral part of the Jenkinsverse by Hambone. Chapter 7. Date point: approximately 65 million years before Vancouver. Moser's Bar. Tineus. Tineus had returned to Igrean in order to oversee the development and operation of the Super Sim mine scanners. He hardly needed bother. The news of the blight on Igrean had galvanized the relevant industries into action. He sat at the bar waiting for Proam to arrive. He brooded over his methanol and tuned into a news feed. The House of Codes has announced that it is accepting all participants for its Super Sim mine simulation. With the latest outbreak of blight on Igrean, Lord Vlaor of the High House is urging all citizens to upload their mines at the nearest scanning center. The image cut to Vlaor speaking. The latest Vestraki atrocity, the poisoning of Igrean with Deathworld microbes, is a threat to our society and our way of life. That is why I rapidly chose to declassify the Super Sim project. It is time for every Igrean to put aside political and personal differences to make the move to cyberspace. Tineus nearly spat out his methanol. Vlaor had done nothing but delay declassification of Super Sim for political reasons, and was now taking credit for actually doing it. That's the latest from High Lord Vlaor, with Super Sim available for public use. It may actually end up protecting us against the war that some say it was responsible for starting. In related news, the House of Medicine is reporting 5 casualties in an incident aboard the refugee vessel Timeless Benevolence. 1 passenger failed to take their supplement, allowing for the onset of madness. The death toll includes the mad passenger, the ship's captain, and 2 guards of the House of Shields. The names of those deceased have not been released, with 1 exception. The body of Dr. Proam of the House of Medicine was found at the scene. Tineus spat out his methanol, earning him a dirty look from the bartender. Proam was dead. All his relentless optimism hadn't saved him from being one of the first victims of the madness. Tineus barely listened to the rest of the newscast. At this time, we believe he was killed attempting to assist the afflicted passenger. This is the latest in a series of madness-induced violence, which raises the question as to knock plants and tick-tick fruit become rare, and as we deplete our emergency stock of supplements, how much worse will the madness outbreaks get? Eternal Thought. Batone. Batone had stopped listening to the news. It did nothing nowadays but make her angry, especially anything regarding the colossal bureaucratic nightmare that was the Igrean attack. And since she had one of the best security clearances in the Igrean Alliance, there was hardly anything on the news that she didn't already know. Instead, she was checking in on something that might never make the news. The infiltrator drones on Strachkel had thus far avoided detection. It was currently daytime in the city of Vestrak, and the drones were hibernating, hidden from view on several rooftops. Batone licked her eyes and allowed herself a smile. The drones were in the outer citadel now. In a few days, they would reach the sanctum, and then Creole and Redair would be able to launch Cataclysm. She just had to hope that the supply of supplements would last that long. Zottersil. Drassic. That should do it, Drassic declared, as he was putting the finishing touches on a contraption attached to the captured Igrean skirmisher. We hooked the drones on here. It is wired into the weapons system, so Major will be able to release them with the left and right missile launch controls. Za looked over it and nodded in approval. I am aiming us for a warp drop behind Igrean 5, with a sublight approach behind the moon of Igrean itself. It will be a long time out of warp space, but I prefer that to getting caught in another gravity spike. Major was loading up the ship controls on his tablet. I think I could. Ready to fly. He looked at Za. You make voice files? I did, Za responded. He tapped his tablet a few times. And now it is loaded into the Igrean ship. Igrean Planetary Security, House of Shields. Officer Noack. The House of Shields was on high alert. With Igreat all but dead, and Igram and Igrave dying, they could not afford any mistakes. Only yesterday, Officer Notch had helped contain a madness riot in the market district, where a handful of houseless vagrants had begun attacking market-goers. Normally, even the poorest Igrean could afford at least one supplement a week, but with the rising cost of Tnok, the houseless were the first to succumb to malnutrition. The death toll was nearly 30 from that incident alone. His instructions were clear. Gray spike and destroy any vessel that makes an unscheduled drop from warp. The House of Shields had even added orbital fighters, ready to destroy any of the vile delivery drones that had been found on the affected worlds.
This is Skirmisher AC-027 hailing Igrean Planetary Security. Do you copy?
Officer Notch jumped into action. The AC series skirmishers hadn't been used since the beginning of the war, and his hands automatically went towards the gravity spike controls.
Skirmisher AC-027, this is Igrean Planetary Security. We do not have an authorized flight plan for you. Planetary Security, I have escaped from Rostraki imprisonment on a crippled vessel. My warp can do 1 kilolight, requesting permission to land on Grail City spaceport.
Officer Noack was taken aback. The pilot must have spent a long time in stasis if they were asking for Grail City.
Skirmisher, be advised that the Grail City spaceport was bombed almost 20 cycles ago. Sending you coordinates and trajectory for Rayorg spaceport. Do not deviate from this flight path. Trajectory received. Thank you.
Officer Noack went back to vigilantly waiting for the deadly Vostraki ship G01986 to make an appearance. The skirmisher followed a long, lazy arc through the atmosphere, landing on Rayorg City spaceport 6 hours later. Zottersill, Drossik.
And the wheels are down,
Drossik shouted as Majir remotely landed the skirmisher.
Drones?
Majir inquired. Normally he would have flown the drones himself, but this time it was up to Drossik.
They are approaching the target sites well below the operating range of the Igrean orbital fighters.
Za chimed in.
Land them soon, please. It's only a matter of time before someone at the spaceport gets tired of waiting for nobody to come out of that skirmisher and realizes what happened. I want to get into warp.
Several tense minutes passed. The drones had been released on schedule, but they couldn't risk creating a warp wake signature until the vials had been delivered.
Drones are on the ground.
Za began powering up the warp emitter.
We are getting out of here. Told you that would work,
Drossik gloated as the Zottersill slipped into warp space.
They were expecting the cargo carrier, so we gave them the opposite. Not only that, but we even got in for close delivery. Which is all well and good, replied Za. But that was our only captured Igrean craft. We still have to get to Igreus. How do you propose we deliver the vials?
Drossik thought for a moment.
I have a few ideas.
House of Codes, Public Scanning Facility Number 73, Capital City, Igreus. Teneus.
Can I interest you in a stasis pod upgrade for only 4,000 compact credits? Teneus asked. Yes, please. All right. Your total today is 4,030 credits. Please tap your banking implants here. Thank you. Please sign here. Sign here, too. Claw print here. Look at the camera. Thank you. Tap your identity implant. Thank you. One more signature. Here's your copy of the scanning contract and your ticket. Follow the signs and give your ticket to the scanning technician. After your mind scan, tap your identity implant on the elevator, and that will take you to the stasis pods. Thank you for choosing the House of Codes. Next!
As Teneus had expected, SuperSim scans were in enormous demand. Anybody who could afford it was getting digitally backed up to ride out the coming madness apocalypse, and that meant that everybody in the House of Codes, even the senior engineers like Teneus, were pulling front desk duty. The line was out the door and wrapped around the block 6 times. The House of Shields had been brought in to provide armed security, not only to manage the line, but also to protect against the increasingly frequent violent outbreaks. Stasis pods were in high demand as well. Almost anyone could afford a scan. They were quick and cheap, but the stasis pods were truly a shameless cash grab. They were marketed as being a safe and secure place to ride out the oncoming storm, and the prices had increased tenfold. Not that Taneus was complaining too much. As a senior engineer, he had access to the financial data of the House of Codes, and that financial data was looking very nice right now. The madness outbreaks were motivating people to get scanned, so at least Priam hadn't died in vain. But there wasn't time to think about that right now.
Hi, welcome to the House of Codes. What can I do for you today?
2 days later, Eternal Thought. Baton. Baton was absorbed in her work. She had withdrawn hundreds of fighter craft and had them scrapped for parts to finish building the Cataclysm vehicles ahead of schedule. Predictably, the Vostraki military had not pressed the advantage. Not that they had really needed to. They were about to win either way. Out of compulsive habit, Baton checked her infiltrator drones. They had gotten into the sanctum, and they were making their way through the control bunker for the Strockkill orbital defense network. Progress was slow, as it was very busy. Between the drones' stealth cloaking and their flawless detection of approaching personnel, they had not been caught. Overall, the drones were performing very well. Almost too well. Now that Baton thought about it, today was proceeding far too nicely. She was heartily surprised when Krail had knocked on her door.
Blight is on Igrean.
How did I know that was what you were going to say?
Because the last 4 times I came in here, it was, another factory is shut down, find me a flux transistor that I can scavenge.
Baton grunted in mild amusement.
For cycles, I used to imagine what it would be like to win the war, be a hero. I have no shortage of money, power, or genetic exchanges. Now that we are about to both win and lose the war simultaneously, we won't even be around to witness it. The supplements are going to run out soon, and then... I don't know.
Have you gotten scanned yet?
Been too busy.
You know the scanner that the techs use for betting on digital fights? Taneus' engineers reconnected it to the FTL sync network. Now that Radair is safely isolated in the control equipment, let's go get scanned together.
But...
Come on, you'll feel better once you do it.
All right.
Zottersill. Drassic.
4 days until we are within range of Igreans,
said Drassic as he paced his cabin.
That is 4 days to figure out how to deliver the vials to the surface.
Fly ship down like last time? Monsieur offered.
No, we do not have any more Igrean ships,
Drassic reminded him.
Oh, right. We cannot do a warp drop because the orbital fighters will take out the drones. We cannot do a remote delivery because we are out of Igrean craft.
Warp shot? Drassic thought for a moment.
That would be dangerous. Dangerous, but certainly doable.
He picked up his radio.
Shiplord Za, what do we have for Vostraki craft?
3.5 days later, House of Codes, Public Scanning Facility number 73, Taneus.
Can I interest you in a stasis pod upgrade for only 4,000 compact credits? Taneus asked.
No thanks.
How about a personal copy of your own consciousness on a storage card for only 10 credits?
No thanks.
All right, your total today is 30 credits. Please tap your banking implant here. Thank you. Please sign here and here. I need a claw print. Grin for the camera. Thank you. Tap your identity implant. Thank you. Here's your copy of the scanning contract and your ticket. Follow the signs and give your ticket to the scanning technician. Thank you for using the House of Codes.
Taneus' implant dinged at him. His shift was up. He closed his booth and left the house through the back entrance. As he walked to the House of Codes office facility, Taneus idly flipped through some news feeds.
Riots are reported on Igrean as refugees from other planets are learning that Igrean has also developed the mysterious black blight first found on Igrean.
Next,
a large explosion was seen at a House of Lightning refinery. The cause is not yet known, but initial reports suggest that an employee developed madness while on the job.
Next, why do you think the High House is pushing Mind Scanner so hard? I'm telling you, they developed and released the blight just so they could have an excuse to get into our heads and control our thought. Taneas didn't let the crackpot finish his sentence. Next.
The price of supplements has risen fivefold in the last 2 days. The discovery of blight on Igrean has sparked a new buying frenzy. With supplies still heavily limited...
Taneas shut off his news feed. With all the focus on the madness, the news wasn't a very good distraction. Taneas was snapped out of his thoughts by a hiss and growl behind him. He turned to see a bleached white Igrean emerge from an alleyway that he'd passed a few moments earlier. It hadn't noticed him. Taneas stood still, not daring to move a muscle or make a noise. The mad Igrean ambled across the street. It looked down another alleyway. Then it froze. Taneas hardly dared breathe. His lungs burned. His eyes were drying out.
"Hey, you!"
Taneas heard a shout. The mad Igrean turned and charged towards the noise, and a barrage of kinetic pulse fire reduced it to pulp. Taneas licked his eyeballs and looked at his rescuer. It was a guard from the House of Shields.
"Thanks."
"No problem. That's what we're out here for. Keep the madness suppressed until the House of Shields gets to not growing on Igrean."
"You're in for a rough ride, I'm afraid."
"I know. Hey, where are you headed? It's a dangerous night to be out on the street unarmed."
"House of Codes. Don't worry, I've got pulse guns there."
"I'll come with you." As they set off toward the House of Codes, Taneas felt the crushing weight of the loneliness he had been pushing back since Proam died. They arrived without further incident. Taneas let himself in and thanked the guard. First thing, he was going to scan his own mind and start up a live copy of SuperSim. Second, he was going to bail on Igreus. It was time to wait out the rest of his physical days on board the Eternal Thought and avoid the riots and outbreaks on the surface. The mind scan went fine, although the tech had been looking a bit pale. Taneas told him to find a supplement and nervously hustled into his personal shuttle. He cybernetically filed a flight plan and then took off. He had just out of the city when his shuttle displayed a warning from the House of Shields. "All non-military craft are to land or dock immediately and without exception. Landing at a spaceport is not required." Taneas grumbled and landed his shuttle in the middle of a nearby farm. Minutes earlier, Zottersel, on approach to Igreus. Drossik. Drossik was nervous. It wasn't that he was uncertain of his mission. His loyalty to the Empire was absolute. It was that he and Mizir were about to nearly kill themselves with distorted space-time. Drossik and Mizir climbed aboard of a Strachey Claw-Swipe-class fighter ship with the final 2 Vial delivery drones. Za's voice crackled through the radio.
"May you find favor with the Emperor." "Same to you. Loading memory card."
The ship beeped an acknowledgement as it loaded custom instructions on the card. They would be needed for the delicate timing of the upcoming maneuver. Za increased the size of the Zottersel's warp bubble, and Mizir guided the claw swipe out of the hangar at the rear end of the carrier. Drossik and Za each ordered their ships to synchronize with the other and execute the commands on the card. Nothing happened for several moments. Then the claw swipe began accelerating along the length of the Zottersel. As the claw swipe reached the bow of the Zottersel dropped from warp into local space around Igreus. The claw swipe shot far ahead of the Zottersel.
"Hidden drop successful,"
Drossik announced as Mizir resumed control of the fighter.
"Go get them, boys," said Za, "and go get them fast. I'm already stuck in a gravity spike and taking pulse cannon fire. I'm detecting incoming ballistics and small fighter ships."
Mizir let the claw swipe's momentum carry it past the orbital fighters that were turning their attention to the Zottersel. Then he dropped down into the atmosphere and started a trajectory that would allow Drossik to jettison the drones from their airlock.
"First one out, no hostiles," Drossik reported. "What's the state over there?"
Za replied,
"Shields are still up. We are returning as much fire as we can, but we can only tank the Igreans for so long."
There were a few minutes of radio silence.
"Approaching the second drop point, still no hostiles." "Kinetic circuits are taking a pounding from the ballistics. I think we can hold out another few minutes." "Second drone jettisoned. We are still undetected." "The gravity spike is coming from the Troam military base near the capital city. I cannot spare the firepower to take it out. I need you to do it." "Going there now," Mizir replied.
As the military base became visible over the horizon, Drossik could see the space-time distortions caused by the gravity spike and the pulse cannon arrays. Beyond it, through the haze, was Capital City.
"Shields just dropped," Za told him. "We're down to armor plating."
Drossik aimed the Giron cannon and fired, cutting a swath of destruction through the base.
"How is that?"
he shouted into the radio.
Za shouted back, "I will let you know when you've disabled the gravity spike. Keep firing."
Giron radiation poured from Drossik's cannon until the barrel glowed red hot. On the ground, equipment melted and roads were carved up. Some of the cannons started turning, seeking out the new target. Majir completed the strafe, then did a wide bank between the base and the city. Heavy kinetic pulses from the Igrean batteries slammed into the city buildings, destroying windows and walls. Majir began another approach, and Drossik finally found the gravity spike emitter.
"Gravity spike down," Za shouted. "Get up here now!"
With a holler, Majir pulled the claw swipe into a sharp bank, then began climbing. And then a heavy kinetic pulse slammed into the side of the claw swipe, sending it into an uncontrollable spiral. Drossik and Majir hardly had time to wonder what had happened when the ground came rushing up to meet them. Zoddersill. Za.
"Pretender, take me. We lost them,"
Za swore. But he didn't have time to mourn. The gravity spike was down, and the Zoddersill was taking heavy pulse fire. So Za fired up the warp drive and set course for the nearest colony, at Afrag. For nearly a full minute, the warp field emitters fought with the space-time distortions caused by the incoming pulse fire. Eventually, the emitters dominated, and the Zoddersill was gone. Tineus. Digital space on Igreus. Tineus finished compiling and immediately realized he was in a computer simulation. That was interesting. He had always wondered what it was like. He began exploring and immediately found himself. Wait a moment. That wasn't quite right.
"Hello? Hi, you're me. Or you're me. I'm the most recent copy of me. Of course. Pleasure to meet me. I'm the copy of me I created when I interrogated the Vostraki War Master." "I see. What do we do now?" "Well, I've been mostly just working on developing the digital world. Since we don't have physical assets to manage, and since I assume that others will be coming before long, I figured it would make sense to start coding some societal controls." "Like what happens if multiple copies of an individual get created?" "Yes, of course. I've got a merge script right up here. Take a look. I've also got backup tech, identity verification, and distribution of single consciousness across multiple devices. I even added a hierarchy of administrative controls and started some rudimentary recombinatory genetic simulators. It took a while. As you know, I haven't been doing much coding as of late."
Tineus reviewed the merge script. It was, naturally, written almost exactly the same way he would have written it, because, well, he did write it.
"Looks good to me, although I would have used recursion at that spot. Either way, I suppose, it does work. I peeled off copies of myself and merged them into each other, then I merged the copies back into myself. As near as I can tell, it works fine. Shall we?"
Tineus felt new memories arise in his mind. Memories of searching through the captured Vostraki. Memories of the madness developing. Memories of developing the structure of a digital world. Memory of learning about Proam's death. Tineus was shocked. Proam? Dead? He spit out his methanol, earning him a dirty look from the bartend. Wait. He had known that the whole time, along with the madness developments. Clearly, there were still a few things left to work out in the merge process. Test runs he had done earlier hadn't been quite so disorienting. Tineus, as chief engineer of the House of Codes, had access to all of its computer assets. He opened the vault of minds being generated by the scanners and found Baton and Creole. He was about to wake them up when he sensed someone else in the room. "Who's there?" Tineus pinged.
"Oh, you know who I am,"
hissed Grand War Master Vezik. Rural farmland outside the capital city, Igreus. Drossik.
"Ugh."
Drossik slowly came to. What had happened? He had been deploying drones, destroying the Igrean military base, flying back towards the Zoddersill, and then the crash. Frantically, Drossik began trying to extricate himself from the wreckage. He tried to release his harness, but realized that his left arm was pinned. so he twisted and released his harness with the other hand and accidentally got a view of the pilot chair. Monsieur had been crushed, and the controls were covered in viscera. Drassic threw up. As Drassic finished evacuating his stomach, he heard an unfamiliar voice penetrating the broken hull. He opened the tablet, which had fortunately survived the impact, and activated the translator.
"Anybody in there?"
Drassic gave a shout and made his way to the airlock at the rear of the shuttle. The interior door opened, and the exterior door took some convincing from Drassic's Geron pistol.
"I saw your ship come down. Any survivors?"
"Just me," said Drassic as he stepped out into full view.
"You're of Astraki,"
Taneus said. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Casual Deathworlder, your host, and this has been Chapter 7 of Deathworld Origins. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and smash those like and subscribe buttons down below and consider dropping us a comment. And, as always, a huge shout out to my editor, Gregor. Thank you very much, buddy. We could never do this without you. Okay. 7 chapters down, 1 chapter to go. And that will bring us to the end of Deathworld Origins. And we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with the Wednesday slot after this. At least until we get to a point in the main Deathworlder story where I can start bringing out things like good training, Waters of Babylon, things like that. So, suggestions? Go ahead and leave your answers in the comments down below. And I think we can probably go without a question this week since, well, I just asked one for suggestions. Until next time, be safe, be well. I love you all. Bye-bye.